Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from everywhere you're joining me today. Today I thought to highlight a little bit about data sovereignty. This is an interesting topic. It was one of the key themes that emerged during a recent Data Summit, African Data Summit that was held here in Nairobi. We had people or representatives from Europe as well as Africa, Kenya, African Union, and the Kenya as a country. Kenya as a country, there was a representative from the Data Protection Commissioner. We also had a representative from the Data Protection Commission of Ghana. It was interesting and quite pleasant to know what is happening in other contexts and other jurisdictions. Ghana was quite an interesting one, that they look at data protection from an innovative point of view. They're very practical. I'm really keen to read further about what is happening on that side. Quite comprehensive, robust, looking at data protection as a way to protect the privacy of persons or individuals, as well as a way to innovate. If I take a quick example that was highlighted is, let's say, data transfer. You want, if I'm applying for a loan in one of the institutions, let's say one bank, and I have only been a member with that bank for the last 3 months. Yet for the last 5 years, I've been diligently banking with another entity or bank. My credit history is good. I don't need to start establishing a new credit history with this new bank that I've been with for the last 3 months. We can simply have a platform or a framework for data transfer that Bank A can share information with Bank B. In this context, my credit history, and that is used to rate me and give me a loan accordingly. Those are some of the conversations that are happening in Ghana, and that was quite pleasing to hear. So it's a proactive approach to this data protection issue or the concept. Now, I particularly want to highlight about data sovereignty because no one seems to understand what it is, despite having some definitions. I call them deficient or limited definitions, because for some of us who are in the data sector, data scientists, data engineers, we understand quite well that if I want to collect data on a specific group of people, I don't necessarily have to go into that country and collect the data. So from my analysis, I see the data sovereignty, the way it's defined from an understanding of the entities, the processors and the collectors of data who operate, let's say, physically in a country, or even if they are operating virtually, then the primary focus is on the transfer of the data across the border. So the data sovereignty concept, the way it's been highlighted in the Data Protection Act, and even in the GDPR, even though the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulations of Europe, the way it's been defined and being implemented in the European context is a little bit robust and very attentive to details. I think recently we had a time when Facebook Meta was penalized heavily for transferring data from the European users and being stored in the United States. So from that side, they have all the resources to implement. And the implications of that, of course, is we're seeing innovations and startups are escaping the European market. But maybe with the updated EU Act on AI, maybe it's going to help to welcome the startups. I am a little bit all over, but I am talking about data sovereignty. If we look at it from the context of Kenya, our implementation of our policies, our frameworks, it's still not yet at par. So recently I was checking one of the applications I was trying to download on Play Store, and when I read the terms and conditions, I actually realized they collect data on financial transactions, contacts, photographs. If you do fingerprints on your phone, they collect that. So it was quite interesting to know that the applications we have in our context, in our jurisdiction, they are allowing sharing of personal data beyond what should be taken. If you do the same in the European context, high chances are either that application will be blocked or you'll have some serious legal implications. So data sovereignty, what I'm trying to say is the way it's been defined and the way it needs to be implemented, it leaves massive loopholes for the data experts, developers and such, because I don't need to be, let's say, in Uganda for me to develop an application that will be used by Ugandans. From that application, I can collect additional data that the users may not know that I'm actually collecting. So the data sovereignty concept, the way it is our strong argument that we need to look at it again. We need to look at it. Is it necessary? If it's necessary, yes. How can we implement it? Implement it in a good way that it facilitates development of startups, innovation, creativity, but again at the same time protecting personal information or personal data from being collected and processed somewhere else. A good example that has been used as a case study more and more often is the WorldCoin. The WorldCoin case where some company came in and it was collecting, was it the iris of the data on iris of the citizens of Kenya and giving them some small stipend or some small incentive or compensation, you call it the way you want. All that, the fact that it took place, you see, that was physical collection of data, but the reality is the place where technology is right now and where we're heading to, they don't necessarily have to come here. Let's take an example of your phone. You use your phone, you use your fingerprints to unlock your phone. That is not just a tap and the phone is open. That is some processing of your fingerprints to match what is in a database somewhere, and from that database is, if it's matching, then we can open your phone. If it's not matching, then we can't. I see gates everywhere, or doors to our offices have these installed security apparatus or gadgets where you open the door with your fingerprint. You open the door with your eyes just by looking at the camera. The door can open. That is not just a one-time activity. So much is happening behind those systems that if you're not a technical person, you may not be able to understand. Nevertheless, data is being collected. So if data is being collected in such a way, if someone establishes a company to develop, let's say, the sensors that are used to open those phones or open those gates, if the company is based in China, or name many other country, France, Netherlands, the United States, they have the primary control of that data. If that is the case, unless we are willing to invest massive resources to follow up with them where the data is stored and how it's being processed, it looks like just a concept that will be existing in our policies, in our acts, in our regulation frameworks, but it doesn't serve a big purpose. Even though they say law can always catch up with you, but in this context, I look at it like it's a tough one. So what should we do? In the Kenyan context, we have a big task ahead of us. First of all, to understand how that provision in the Data Protection Act needs to serve us. If we are serious that we don't want our data to be collected and processed without the consent of the users in some other jurisdiction, then there might need to be very comprehensive and robust check of all technological tools that we use. I don't know how feasible that will be. If we can develop a framework that if an application is being used in Kenya, then that application needs to submit its operational process to the, let's say, Data Protection Commissioner. And then from there, they are checking which data are you collecting from the citizens. And if the citizens are giving out this data, are they aware that they are actually giving out that data? Because there's an element of consent. I need to give consent that I am giving this data with full knowledge of how it will be used, how it will be processed, either locally or somewhere else. So we have a long way to go. And give me a comment on if this is feasible, or if we should let ourselves free that other entities can use our data without our concern. I'm saying this because at some point I was having a conversation with a friend and he mentioned, if I keep that data, what will I use it for? If you want to take it, just take it. I'm losing nothing. So it kind of falls into a philosophical conversation. But also one of the issues that emerged during the African Data Summit was probably Africa as a continent, or the respective countries with the data and the age of data and information we can generate massive amounts of data with our population. But just like the natural resources, if we are unable to use that data the way we are unable to utilize our own natural resources, they are now extracted for the advantage of the external forces or external superpowers. We have to take the data or information resource to our advantage, develop applications, develop tools that can help us to solve our own perennial problems. It's quite a big number. We shall be delving into each one of them. So thank you so much. So today I decided to talk a little bit about data sovereignty because at Study Research and Analytics, we are rebranding to focus on a wider range of services that we shall be talking about in soon. Good day.